Hey, what's up guys, this is Oakley and I am pleased to bring you a battle that takes place in Total War Attila. However, this is going to be a mod, actually, a mod that I had featured a while back, mod that's still in progress, and it is the Ancient Empires mod. So what is unique about this? Well, it basically, the goal of this mod is to bring everything from Rome 2 over into Attila. The reason for doing this is because, well, as those of you who played Rome 2 know, Rome 2 did not have a family tree in it, whereas Attila does, and so that's what this mod is going to bring you, the ability to have a family tree. The campaign is still under development. I have just been privy to playing a bit of the custom battles and whatnot, where you can obviously see I am here deploying as the Republican Roman troops. You have all the factions of Rome 2 plus many more, so they do bring out a ton of units to play with. So here my forces are deploying up front. Another cool thing about obviously playing with Total War Attila as the base game is that you get to play with escalation here, with the just ridiculous amounts of cool extra added effects for sieges. Makes it that much more awesome. So I have Roman Republican troops here defending. A couple of them are going to start moving forward. Cohors Sociorum Latini. So I have a lot of Latin allies moving forward, deploying with some more troops here, deployed in the front of the gate by the barricade. Some levies and other skirmishers tied down in the back, and so we're going to be trying to hold the enemy back from this position. Meanwhile, my city has been burning after a prolonged siege. I have more Equites Extraordinari, tons of other units in the rear here in reserve. I have some Cohors Sociorum Etrusci, so these are going to be the Etruscan allied infantry pushing forward. I have some companion cav, really cool stuff. And over by my central plaza, holding in the back, we have lots of elite Republican troops. Hastati not being that elite, but the Triari here obviously going to be very good, kneeling as they would have historically in the back lines. And then my opponent, Indy Pride, is actually going to be fielding units from the Macromani. And they do have some really cool troops here. These are going to be Hari warriors. They are kind of covered in ash to make themselves appear dark here, so perhaps ambush troops. Tons of these pretty scary warriors lined up to attack my settlement. There is a rather big gap in my defenses over there, which they'll be looking to exploit. And in the back they have some more cavalry units waiting in the rear. Now the engagement is going to get underway pretty soon up through the front, where Indy's going to be moving up. Look at all those reserves, tons of Germanic bowmen, Germanic youths, and then up through the front the Hari warriors here making their approach. More troops in the back also charging forward. This is really cool. It's these detailed landscapes and battlescapes that I love to see, and it's something that I thought was definitely missing in Rome 2. So now we get to witness some of this. And another cool thing as well is you can see my troops starting to form up. They're actually additional unit abilities. So what I have here is a square formation. So I'm going to use this to greet the enemy charge. My tower is going to be firing in at the enemy, and it does give you some nice buffs to fighting back against the enemy. And so this is going to be holding back the charge against them. So my square in an ideal position here, holding right at the flanks of this little wetland marsh area. My troops all buttoned up, holding a defense, but they're going to get swarmed around the sides. More of the Hari warriors actually going to be charging through this position. Really cool with all the shots coming in here. I'm getting a nice flanking shot with my levies into these fierce but poorly armored Hari warriors, and then I pull back. So here's my square holding out against the enemy, and in this position I'm going to counter charge against the enemy up against these palisades. We're going to be fighting amongst the woodwork with fires blazing in the background. This is the kind of stuff that I love to see. This is uber cinematic for me, and I love just getting engrossed in these types of battles. Over on this front, the enemy is charging forward up against a pretty defensible position here. The end of the marsh, we have stacks of logs and stuff to break up the enemy charge, and this is where we're going to be sallying out, holding the enemy at bay, and then getting tons of fire in at them from my supporting skirmishers and also these towers. So we can watch as the enemy tries to clean up my ranks, but it is not going to be going well for them. Like I said, they're kind of ill armored, and so against even my weaker troops, mind you, these are sort of levies and weaker units, cohort Socium Lucani, so pretty cheap Hastati-ish type early forces. And so, yeah, look at all with this murderous fire, going to be taking out these Hari warriors, and then this perfect positioning of my units here, getting some perfect flanking shots. That's going to rout the enemy force. So Indy is paying dearly for his assault, and I really love these barricades built up here. It's the level of detail you'd expect from something like Total War Arena, and it's awesome to see on a battlefield like this. So that's the first rank. My square is actually still holding out. I love how the standard bearer actually pulls himself, as well as the officer, pulls himself back into the center of this, and now we're holding out against waves of barbarians. You can see them swarming around the sides and in the distance. Siege tower is slowly going to start rumbling up, so we know that this is just the early stages of the assault. Cavalry was committed into my flank. Germanic heavy horse. So Indy's forces here for the Macromani are actually more of a late period Germanic force fighting against my early period guys. So he does have some higher quality cavalry and also infantry compared to me. So we'll see how this goes. He does have a lot more troops kind of positioned in the back, also waiting, getting their javelins off. And they're going to be going for a flanking position. As of now, none of my forces have yet cracked. The square is still holding out very strong. But now it looks like he has some Germanic heavy horse starting to get itself in a prime position to hit me in the flank. Oh, no, it looks like my levy's actually routed. The rest of my units here, soft targets in the back, going to get charged, and that is going to absolutely shatter them. What this means now that he's gotten into the back is it means that he can start hammering and ambling the rear of my troops. However, this is where I'm going to start to deploy some of my cavalry from the back. They're going to start to be given the move order to push out. My square in the distance here just absolutely got crushed when these elites Batavian swordsmen came in from the flank. Here comes the complete disintegration of my line. Slaughtered where they stand, fallen, into this marshy ground. They're going to be beaten down and drowned here in this, drowned and killed in 6 inches of water. This is not a good fate for the Roman troops. But just this awesome detailed landscape is what I love about this kind of stuff. Gone are the days of the flat battlefields. I really hope we see more of this type of stuff in the future. It really adds more believability, character to these fights. Defensible positions here where I'm fighting literally, amongst the barricades here. Just so cool. But anyways, the cavalry is unleashed onto my rear ranks. I did charge out with some of my own units here to reinforce, holding the enemy at bay, keeping them from hammer and anviling my troops. It looks like the cavalry here, Germanic horse tier 3 against my tier 2 Equites Extraordinari. I am going to have an advantage just because of the supporting fire I have here and the charge bonus that I got. On the right flank, I have Germanic spearmen fighting off against my cohort Socium, which are doing pretty well. But over here, Indy's doing a good job of micromanaging his guys around the flank. You got a brutal volley of javelins against my guys. Look at them just soaked in tomato sauce here. That's dangerous. And now Indy's being a little bit more cautious, biding his time, waiting for the perfect moment to engage. Meanwhile, in the distance, Siege Tower continues to rumble its way forward. Looks like the archers actually have decided to pull up. This is a massive... Oh, looks like we went under the map. This is a massive group of archers just here to fire upon everything. This is a Battle of the Bastards type moment here, where the archers are just going to unload on the entire position. In the back, more footmen, more towers, tons and tons of ranks of barbarian infantry. This is not looking good for me. So my front line is still somewhat holding. We lost the square. My second force has been chased down. My last one over here, Socium Latini, still holding strong. I do have an infantry force that cleaned up the enemy spearmen. It's going to be detached to try and relieve my cavalry, but this is going to basically trigger an enemy charge into the back of my remaining units, and just touched in the rear. They're now going to absolutely shatter. You can see the enemy Germanic warrior here just cheering as my units start to rout with fire in the background. The atmospherics for this are just absolutely insane. And this is why I think Rome 2 deserves to be ported over. And look at the back. Look at this huge group of infantry just waiting to close in on me. Cavalry on the flanks, just kind of watching as my guys fall back. So I do pull away with some of my Equites Extraordinari. They do get caught on some, a couple of units. Batavian swordsmen going to be chasing my guys, but now extreme numbers, especially over here. Corso Surum Latini seem to be holding up pretty well in a straight up engagement. Against spearmen they do well, but look at this giant ram here rumbling behind them. That's when you know as a defender you are pretty much fucked. When the siege equipment has made it behind your lines, this is going to signal my guys that the end is here. I mean, you have a giant, you know, leather and ironclad battering ram coming up next to you. Yeah, it's time to turn tail and run, which is exactly what my forces are going to start doing here. Yep, you can see them beginning to break. I believe they've actually shattered at this point. Yep, all of them going down. The remaining guys here on my part were actually swamped by the reinforcements. They came in with their javelins and took me out. Looks like my cavalry actually shattered as they tried to pull out, so that's not looking good. Over in the background, what ended up happening is there was a surprise assault from Indy Pride with his Hari warriors pushing forward. With a lot of these javelins, they're going to be harassing my men, forcing them back, so I pull out of that location. I'm going to allow the tower to do as much damage as I can. It's going to be doing pretty well. But this is a dangerous position. If the enemy can start to overwhelm me, then I'll be attacked on two fronts, so I've turned about some of my units there just to face the enemy. So here they go, charging forward. I'm going to try and pull up and re-engage. I do have a couple more units here who can turn about and face the threat. India is going to now actually commit to destroying that tower, so I will only get supporting fire for so long. And here come my bloody troops trying to hold back these brutal Hari axe-wielding forces. My guys are super bloodied, and they must be wondering, you know, where are the reinforcements? They have to hold out against this nightmarish force. In the distance, the tower just crumbles. The bird, the raven, is taking a message away saying this side of the city has fallen. Things are not looking good for me. So that's on that front. What I am doing, however, is I'm starting to issue out of the mouth of this gate with some of my forces. And my goal here is to actually start to charge out and perhaps get a little bit of an ambush on my opponent. Indy is so fixated on the assault here and the assault down the center that I'm hoping to maybe get some good rear or flanking charges. So I'm pulling my cavalry out. Maybe I'll be able to catch his own cavalry or other units unguarded as they start to charge through. But also I can come in here and try and pincer, close the door on these two juicy Germanic horse units. We'll see. Meanwhile, in the back in this position, I am pulling forward with some Principes. Once again, with awesome scenery paired with this siege. I do wish that Total War Attila did have an epic model of, you know, the city of Carthage, so you could have fight on the city of Carthage with some cool escalation. But sadly, it is just a basic city instead. Instead, you have to be satisfied with cities like this, like Ravenna, which is, I mean, it's pretty awesome. Cities like Constantinople, but I figured I wouldn't fight on Constantinople just because it didn't fit the theme thematically, you know, for this one, since we're doing early Romans. Still trying to hold strong against the enemy here. We'll see how that goes. I do have reserves trying to pull up. Over in the top here, I have actually deployed a ton of barricades. These are going to be defending some of my light skirmishers in huge ranks, 180 units. So keep in mind, this mod not only introduced a ton of new units and factions, but also plays with the unit mechanics and sizes, so everything is much beefier. I have some flaming balls here ready, and of course you have these barricades, which are an awesome sight. Another one position here where I have a couple more of my troops, the Cohors Sociorum Etrusci, so a lot of the Etruscan forces here. This is mostly a contingent of Latin allies that I had here, with just a couple core Roman units. So presumably here, this is a Roman city that the allies have been summoned to defend, with, you know, contingents like this of Cohors Sociorum Etrusci being committed and Campani cavalry also coming in. So I've got the enemy pinned on this front. I'm going to start to actually pull up with some levies. The enemy is charging forward into the city. Tons and tons of units here. A lot of casualties, a lot of death and blood here. The battering ram was actually abandoned. I don't think they even needed it to bust down the gates. As my units retreated, the enemy just poured right through the gates. All the towers here are pretty much destroyed. The enemy's going after a couple of the remaining ones, so it's only a matter of time before they, charge through the main plaza. That's exactly what's going on here. So I have some Scorpion units over in that position, and now we're going to be having an awkward face-off with these Germanic spearmen. Let's actually watch my lines from here. God, the unit models, I love all the various shield details added here. Just adds to the epicness. And now we're going to get a charge against spearmen. This is an engagement I want to take. I know I can take them out with my swordsmen. And playing all these historical games does really make me happy. I love the historical stuff. Can't wait to hear what their next historical title is going to be. All this new stuff for Total War Warhammer is excited, but at the end of the day, part of me misses the historicity of it. I miss the match combat. I miss the human-on-human action, the grittiness of it, the believability of it, and it's just something I definitely miss. Meanwhile, those, laser shots coming out from over there at 1,000,000 miles an hour is actually going to be my Scorpion unit starting to fire away at this. It's firing really, really quick, but not having the best of accuracy. Although, who can blame an ancient machine gun like this for not being super accurate? Oh my god, the trail's crazy. Yeah, I'm firing away at them. Yep, picked off a couple of the Batavians, so that's pretty good. The closer they get, the more damage I can deal. And here I have a couple more of my reserves. There's this huge area with brimstone pits. I have barricades that's going to try and hold the enemy back. Meanwhile, over here, I've got the Germanic spearmen held back. The enemy is continuing to pour through, seize my walls. And now they're going to start to break down my early barricades. This is just going to buy me more time. And now I can finally fall back to the final keep at the top. In the distance here, actually what you missed was Indy had moved his cavalry a little bit closer as I inched my troops up to close off that route of escape. So I have a Equites Ossurum Campani, 2 of my infantry. Another of my infantry units was sent back to hold back the enemy, who were now facing off against. And so I'm kind of facing off against Indy. He does pull in one of his cavalry forces to try and knock some sense into me. I have heavy Principes here against the Hari. The Hari are exhausted and surrounded at this point. A good time for a cavalry charge to try and break through the back. I'm going to immediately disengage and try and target his cav, who don't get the best of assaults on me, considering we're already pinned down in combat like this. And now I'm going to pull up a couple of my reinforcements. The levies and other skirmisher units like this really don't have that much ammo that they can use, and so I have to choose wisely when I deploy them. Keep pulling them up, and he does decide that he wants to charge my force. So I'm going to turn off fire at will here, which should give me a little better bracing and tell my troops to halt. Remember, that's an Attila mechanic. Turn off fire at will, turn off movement, and you can brace against cavalry charges. So that was really not effective, as well as having pretty, restricted street sides. He wasn't able to get a good charge. He does get back and hit my Principes in the back, not very devastating. Meanwhile, I did get a nice charge off against his Germanic horse. Tier 3 guys against my Tier 3 guys. We'll see how this goes. I did get the drop on him, and I have some infantry that I'm now going to be pulling into the area for support. Ooh, and he did actually break my Principes with that rear charge, so take that back. That was pretty devastating there. That is a key unit that I would have loved to keep alive. 146 men remaining. I did notice that while playing this mod with Indy, units tended to hold out for a very long time, but when they broke, they broke. And even if you had 143 units left, it would still shatter and never come back. So I did find that the morale was still left something to be desired. And it made for some interesting reversals in this battle. I'm going to try and commit more of my troops to try and beat back this Hari, whereas their gold sheved tier 1 infantry, I should say, and they're proving their worth in this battle. God, taking forever to beat. Meanwhile, in this position, the enemy has opted out of charging my heavy reinforced barricades. I'm going to try and pull up in this position where where I've been having my Scorpion unit fire away. Only 6 kills to their name, but it is doing a lot of morale damage. These, again, essentially naked Hari warriors are be taking the brunt of those shots. If it does hit, nothing much that can stop it. Although I do have some plebs here that I can throw into the engagement. Pretty funny to have these guys. And so they're going to charge against the enemy. Still some of my guys wearing assortment of kind of random equipment on them. I do have the fireballs at my back that I'm just waiting to deploy. And here we have a kind of a plebeian bannerman in the back. Apparently a legionary standard that he stole from who knows where. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that these are indeed plebs. Tier 2 light infantry somehow. I'm not quite sure how this works. Light citizens of Rome. But yeah. So they're going to be at least holding back the Hari, who are winded. I'm holding back this front, but my Hastati are getting cut down relatively quickly. And then on this front, I am charging in the back with my Hastati. The enemy is swarming all around. Charging from the beachhead. They did take a couple volleys of a fair amount of javelins. So they're going to try and reconsider. Form about. No other way to approach this. The beach side would actually be a nice way to sneak through, but unfortunately for the enemy, it is blocked by a bunch of the kind of large structures here. So they're not going to be able to push up, so now they're going to have to wait out. Hari warriors, or Germanic, actually nobles. This is going to be a tough unit to deal with. Going to be pulling in to here, although they are going to get a pretty heavy... Ooh, yeah, just getting rained on by my javelins. Ooh, and one of my my Pilla does go straight through the crew of my Scorpion. So they should probably pull out of this fight. Not something they can win. More barbarians at the gates here, beating away at my barricades. It's only a matter of time. Yeah, I'm going to start to pull back my forces. This is not good. What it means is my unit here is actually going to get destroyed if I don't reinforce. But I don't want to stay committed at the bottom. I kind of want to hold back at the top. Meanwhile, in the distance, we have destroyed the Hari. So they're obliterated. A couple corpses left over. Smoke here. God, I love the atmospherics. So good. So epic, so brutal, so visceral. Cavalry is going to be going away. So I have effectively secured the rear of my forces. The two reinforcing infantry troops are going to pull back. Cohorts of Surum, Etrusci, Tier 1, eager, frightened by the enemy units, however. So I'm going to try and pull them into this position. The enemy cav is starting to pull up through the side. Let's actually take a look at some of these troops. They do look very cool. Unfortunately for them, I still hold the towers on this front. So they're going to be taking fairly significant HP damage here. Although the gate has been destroyed, so they can actually pull right through here. Oh no, actually it looks like it's... is it under my control? Okay, good. It's still under my control. So making the long, torturous charge through the back is not going to work for them. They're going to pull out after having taken fairly significant losses. I was scared for a little moment that they would be able to charge through this gate, but luckily it's going to close right on their faces. Had they been able to charge through here, ooh, that would have been bad. They would have charged right into my guys. I do pull back my cohorts with Etrusci, forming a deeper formation. I know I need to hold this as long as possible, and so I figured forming up in a deep formation here will prevent the enemy from chewing through me anytime soon. As I start to pull in more reinforcements, my front ranks looking like pincushions, having absorbed the entire unit's worth of precursor volleys and javelins here. So freaking sweet. So that's my defense. On this front, 2 Corps Sociorum, and actually a Triari unit being committed to this fight. Heavy, elite units going up against enemy spearmen, so spear versus spear, we'll see how this goes, but my guys do have the armor and the experience to tango. Although some of the enemy is, I believe these are the nobles, yeah, Germanic nobles, triple gold, tier 3. Ugh, that is not going to look good for me. So I'll see how long I can hand out. So the strategy here is to hold out, hold out, hold out. In the rear, I have to clean up the enemy, and then I have to see what I can do to commit on this front. And yeah, my Hastati that I abandoned here, not going to be holding out for very long. I have javelins unloading from the top. I do wish I'd had maybe some more archer units or artillery units to capitalize on situations like this. But again, at the end of the day, I kind of wanted more just infantry to hold out the enemy, let the towers deal the damage, and exhaust the enemy. The Germanics are actually pretty heavily armored in this case, so all the supporting fire, especially since it's indirect, not necessarily doing as much as I would have liked. Holding strong with Hastati here against Batavian Swordsmen. Roman infantry doing crazy amounts of work. We just broke, which unit is this? Batavian Swordsmen, tier 2, gold cheved units. That's pretty good. However, Indy is now going to be pulling up with a ton of his archers. And now we can see as they just fire straight up in the air. And this is where I desperately need some sort of cavalry force to clean up this light infantry force that's just crusading through my lines. Oh, and here I do get some flaming fireballs off. I started to pop them because the Hari were pressing my units. One of them is going to bowl its right through my lines, taking out a ton of my guys, but also making it through to some of the enemy. So that didn't go so well. My plebs have broken. The Hari are right up at the top, but they're going to be greeted full force by a bunch of levies just unloading on them. But this is the first enemy unit to set foot on the top. Not a good sign. And then they're going to charge right into my levies. But I'm here to reinforce, to attack in the back with my Triari to plug this gap and then hold some of these flaming fireballs. Try and get a good engagement with them. Super heavy Triari, still holding strong. Friends are rounding, but they can hold firm. My reserves are still good. In the back, we're still cleaning up the enemy. Broke one of the, Tencteri Cav. It shattered. Roman units on the beach. One of the engagements that I did want to try and do with Indy here was to try and do something where we could do an epic beach landing. But unfortunately, for the time being, this mod doesn't seem to support, it doesn't seem to have any of the naval ships ported over, which I thought was unfortunate. Because one of the cool changes to Attila is when you dock ships, they actually don't clog up on the beaches, because once a ship docks and drops off its troops, it has an automatic feature where it pulls out and then kind of sails to the horizon, so you can actually unload huge amounts of troops, as opposed to Rome 2, where pretty quickly the beach gets completely filled up with forces. So I do look forward to the time where this mod does actually have naval units enabled, and then we can get some really epic battles going on. I mean, just imagine a huge naval assault like that that goes against a siege escalation port. Then you're looking at some really cool stuff. Enemy is shattered here, so immediately I'm going to tell my units to start pulling back into the mix. I need to bring them in. The enemy is still mulling about in the rear with cavalry and skirmishers, and so I figured, this is my opportunity. I'm going to activate 2 of my cohorts of Siorum Etruski. Let's actually watch from the viewpoint of one of these units as they start to hustle to make their rounds. You can imagine how chaotic a siege like this would have been like. You have no idea the situation, what's going on anywhere. Probably signs. The only way you could tell what was going on would be bugle calls, trumpets, some flags being raised, but all of this, easily disrupted by the fact that, look at you as an individual soldier. You have a pot on your head and you can hardly see anything. You're exhausted, there's dust, there's smoke. You can imagine just how incredibly disorienting these sieges must have been. So here you go, pushing up, and you can see where my target is. Essentially, it's going to be to free up my units, going to hit these units in the back, and hopefully try and actually bottle up some of these Germanic bowmen. In this position, my levies have pulled up. I did pop off some of the fireballs, although they weren't as effective as I would have liked. Archers in my rear line are going to be firing at my retreating units. Nowhere left for them to go, but the archers don't have a very good shot on my guys at the top. Silver cheved Triari. Yep, it's going to be hard for Indy to make a dent here, although on this front, archers are going to try and unload at my front ranks. Most of the shots going wide. Let's watch as he charges forward. The second ramp has been breached here. Boom, so they are going to collapse on me. And I do have a ton of levies just waiting to unload on the enemy, although most of my shots, I believe, at this point were wasted. So they're going to try and reload and fire again at the enemy, but you can see most of them ran out of ammo. That was wasted early on shooting at the enemy. I mean, I did a fair amount of damage, but I was ideally hoping I could have used more of those shots to just fire away into the flank of the units. That's why I had constructed this kind of intricate barricade system, but the ammo conspired against me. Although you'd think if you had time to prepare for a siege like this, you'd have a mound of javelins and other missile-ready weapons just to hurl at the enemy. In actual sieges, you'd have, as the enemy was kind of running through the streets, you'd have citizens climbing on top of the buildings, and these clay tiles are huge, they're sharp, they're brittle, and they're, pretty heavy. And so what you'd have is citizens coming up here in the event of a siege. You just slide them down on the heads of the enemy below, throw them down, and you could do a lot of damage against the enemy units that would be stuck up like this. So that's this engagement here. Enemy held back in this position too, and now I've pulled up with my reinforcements. Equites Sociorum Compani. You can watch them as they pull up here to the relief of my forces. In the distance, I am having to kind of forego on some of the enemy who've clogged the streets, and what I have to do is pick my targets a bit better. So here I spot an opportunity to charge forward. You can see a ton of archers. They're going to start unloading on me. I have to exit these streets. So he has some enemy units in the distance trying to pull up, and so I get a nice smash on one of these archer units. More infantry is going to be coming back. Enemy cav in the distance starting to try and counteract me. And so I figure at this point I'm kind of going to be pinned, kind of going to be screwed. I've committed myself to this engagement to try and knock out the archers. Most of them are getting away, and so I'm starting to get pinned in the back. So what I decide to do is continue the charge forward. I'm going to chase after the archers here. They're going to shatter. And so I desperately have to get out of here as more units pour into the back of my ranks. My cavalry, however, is given a movement order to just pull everything through. We're going to try and pull through the barricades, try and get back to safety, and my goal was, this is the only exit I can find. Smash through the rear of the enemy, pull back through my guys, and try and return to the plaza. Although the charge here not going quite as I had imagined, the enemy's still very, very strong. Confident casualties sustained, they are not routing, still a lot of men left. And I'm going to break these forces, but now the enemy cav is in my rear. I have some cohorts for Matrusky. The same two units here. One of them has found the enemy archers. The other one is going to charge into my guys. Turn off fire at will, form into square. And that's going to pretty much blunt the enemy, even though I'm only half formed into square. Really awesome formation that I love to see in this game. Not necessarily very historically accurate. The most Roman units could have pulled off is a testudo. A couple units could have formed an orbis, which is essentially just a complete circular formation. No individual formations like this really would have existed, perhaps in some circumstances when you were assaulted on all sides and kind of were forced to back up against each other. But this is obviously not a standard Roman formation, very hard to pull off, just because the organization, the discipline, and actually, if you take a look at the ranks, this is just so thin. You can imagine if an enemy wedge charges through here, boom, you bowl these Romans over, and look at where you find yourself. Completely in a position to charge the rear, smash at everything, cause panic right away, which is what you're starting to see here. If these were smart cavalrymen, what they would do is continue to just charge right on through and bowl over these units. Can you imagine being one of these troops and just hearing whinnying at your back, galloping, and then seeing the man to your right just smashed, bowled over by cavalry, and you hear more stampeding behind you? Yeah, this formation would have broken nearly instantaneously. I did break this unit in the back, and so my force is going to try and come to the relief of my square, try and pick off these archers. I have another unit formed up into square where they're actually getting volleys off. This is like a Napoleonic square here, fending off the cavalry. Although speaking of fending off cavalry, there are several instances of the Roman troops trying to fight off cavalry, having somewhat unique formations where they would, the Roman infantry obviously were equipped with pilla. And so what some Roman commander is doing, I believe it was fighting against the either Sarmatians or the Alani, I can't remember, But there was a Roman commander who decided to have all his troops hold the pillar underhand like spears, have the front couple ranks crouched down, the next couple ranks stand up and protrude their spears in a huge line, a huge spear wall, and behind that the remaining ranks of archers, slingers, javelin men, all of that facing forward, and in that way they had a dense formation, lots of spear points and lots of javelins, and they were able to repel cavalry charges, stop them dead, kind of like this formation is doing here. But still, I'm a little worried. I keep routing enemy forces inside my ranks, or inside my the city premises. But yeah, they're just gonna keep on coming. Barbarian horde does not stop. They do have some nice cloaks on them here though, and they're eager. This is the unit you want to be. This is the cleanup crew in terms of a siege. You got it easy at this point. We can pop up to overhead, so not much that's left. I do have a single cohort sociorum here, able to perhaps chase after these units. No cav support, so I do have a chance to route them. So I'm kind of trying to hide them around the side. We'll see if any picks up on that. I am charging through the center. I broke the enemy here, and so I can charge them, back. Nothing left in the rear, so now I can kind of face a frontal assault here. Triari still holding the enemy back. In the center, I am forcing them away. So I could potentially get off here. So if I charge these archers, and now I can get a nice enveloping attack on the Germanic spear here, who are very tired, perhaps ready to break. So this could be a nice turning point for me. I have one more Principe unit that I'm going to decide to encourage to charge around the flanks. We'll see how that goes. And now here comes the pincer movement, so pressure coming in from this side. So the cleanup crew here that thought it was quiet on this front did not suspect an ambush from my guys issuing out from the side covered in blood. Yeah, this is the perfect engagement for me. Enemies strung out like they are. One of the barbarians decides to turn. When I really love the helmet on my guy, it looks really cool. The problem, however, is I have one unit, and now the enemy has been alerted to my plans. Is this 1, 2? What is that? Yep, 2 full skirmisher forces. Germanic use 180, so we're looking at 360 units plus tons of cavs. So we may have caught ourselves in a bad position. So the enemy just kind of swarmed away. I did break one of them, but now I'm caught in a pretty precarious position with no reinforcements here. Trying to face the enemy to the front. But now tons of Germanic use in the back are going to try and face me. So what I decide to do is charge the greater number of troops. Cavalry, however, is going to be coming in. So I'm forced to deploy in square formation. And so here comes the desperate straits. This is not good when there's enemy skirmishers around. They can just pick apart my square. So this is a natural counter to this. This cavalry is just going to circle around, completely bypass me, and allow the enemy to just pick me apart. One man at a time. Look at this guy just trying to hold firm. That's so cool. Just planting themselves here. Oh my god, taking so much fire. So crazy. Just braced. God, this is freaking cool. I love this formation. So, like I said, not necessarily super historical, but it makes you just feel for these men held down here. I mean, blood splattered everywhere. These guys holding desperately on, not knowing what to do, planting themselves down. Buddies at their back. Just crazy. But this force has been caught out kind of in the middle of nowhere. My other cohort, Yomatrusky, which was looking like it was in a good position, actually is now getting charged by Germanic nobles with supreme confidence. Not going to look good here. My settlement is on fire. So actually it looks like it's giving me +4 morale. I'm not quite sure if that's supposed to happen. Ooh, but I did actually shatter the enemy forces so that they are now out of javelins. So this means they have to come to me. So we'll see how this goes. They are breaching the backs. Just these youths with so many numbers. God, we'll see how this goes. Breaking up the clubs to deal with my guys. And most of them being beaten back, but you know, every couple of men that goes down on my side. So So I do look like I'm getting some pretty epic engagements, but every once in a while you'll see one of my guys go down. And now it's just a matter of time before my guys get taken out. Ooh. Man, this makes me miss match combat so much. Oh! Oh my god. So freaking cool. So this square formation is no joke. Holding out against more levies. Another unit does rout, so we'll see if he can even get to me. This unit here, ooh, winning in current combat, so we're doing pretty good. Although what's happening in the rear is my unit in this position was absolutely shattered. I think cavalry got in the rear, and so now they're cleaning up my forces. What this means is the enemy is now on the third ramp to come up. I'm still trying to hold strong here, trying to plug the gaps. I pull back with my Cavalry because I'm taking a lot of damage for those archers. And on this front, he has actually pushed through. I'm falling back. I'm now having to commit my cohorts extraordinary here. Silvered up, so they should be able to hold strong. But the enemy is slowly, heave-hoeing all the way up to the capture point. They are now within striking distance of the capture point here. Don't have much in the way of reinforcements. I'm going to try and pull my levies around the flank to charge the enemy. I am pulling back with my Cavalry. I do want to bottle up the enemy infantry here. I have sacrificed some Leve Sociorum against the enemy to try and hold them back, but this unit breaks, so there goes one side of my pincer. My other Cavalry force moving very slowly. They're tired, which is what's costing them this much time. But I was hoping to knock out these elite swords here and relieve the pressure before turning on the other enemy. We'll see how this goes. I do relieve the pressure on my front, and I actually have barricades to help me out. A couple of my guys poking through to stab at the enemy once their backs were turned. Such a freaking cool scenario. But now the enemy can charge through the back. A couple of them are going to be able to target my guys. In the distance, my square is still holding out. Tons and tons of units coming at me. My god, this is the heroic last stand. Corsasurum Etruski. God, if they survive this, they will get so many military honors. It's unbelievable. But it looks like the numbers here determined to make them go down for good. That's happening here. Balance of forces is now evenly matched. I am afraid it's going to be going in the enemy's direction. My other square doing pretty well. So in the squares in these advanced positions is doing pretty well, but the enemy has now plowed through the back. Ooh, cavalry lining up in the rear. I just don't have enough units in the back. I should not have committed that many troops. They got drawn out. I got too eager to bottle up the enemy, and in the process, look what ended up happening is the same thing happened to me. Ooh, and this could be a decisive moment. Cavalry going to start trying to line up for a charge here, where I'm kind of holding firm. A couple of the enemy did make it past my lines, and so they're disrupting the rear. It looks like India's cavalry is actually having a hard time pulling through my guys. These barricades wreaking havoc on half of the cavalry being stuck there, so they're trying to break it down. This is buying me crucial amounts of time. My troops are already held strong here in the streets. God, I just love the ability to build defenses here, and so the cavalry held at bay by 2 ranks of walls. We'll see how that ends up going. Jari doing pretty well. Looks like India's going to give up on that and really desperately try and form his cavalry to land a strike here. He needs to do that. He needs to break me before I can get some of my guys back. Ooh, and let's see, here it comes. Only a couple scattered cavalry troops engaging, but I think that may actually be enough to turn the tide. Here come a couple more. The pressure is on. Let's take a look at the unit here. Evenly matched, so he's going to try and cycle around to another charge. This is one of the things we did notice, that cavalry charges against heavy infantry, especially in confined quarters, didn't seem to have much of an effect. So we'll see where things end up here. And you can see there the cavalry charge did seem blunted by something. I'm not quite sure if it was the pathfinding or the unit. Maybe there's debuffs to charge. I wouldn't be surprised if they did something to the cavalry mechanics, because Attila is noted as having pretty severe cavalry advantages, just rolling over troops. So maybe the monitors did do something like that, but it does look like it's a little bit funky here. Regardless, it is buying me the time I need to hold strong, hold that front. On this side, my Corps Extraordinary with 225 men still not going down. Cavalry still not going down either. They're going to hold out for a long amount of time. Although they have bows in these ranks, they're going to try and fire at these troops when they get the chance. In the distance, let's see what the 161 against 129. So the balance bar here teeters ever further in Indy's favor. My square, oh my god, it is virtually disintegrated. I can hardly tell my men apart from the corpses surrounding them. God, where is there even a square left? I think this is it. This is the extent of the square. Look at that. That's freaking crazy. Just a knot of soldiers left over. That's it. I do have to say the pace of the battle with this mod, especially in confined quarters like this, is slow. But I kind of like this. This is definitely a change from typical, or the, I guess, it's kind of all Total Wars recently have been super fast, and it's only when it comes to mod that you get the slow, kind of relaxed combat pace that you get in things like Medieval 2 that I really, really miss. And so it's cool to just be able to enjoy a bit of the battle, much like this guy is here. Just enjoying the battle, hanging out. I don't think he even has a sword out. Yep, still on his right hip. So he seems to be resigned to his fate, recognizing the pace of battle. Doesn't require him to fight or anything. Oh my god. Oh, there you go. Looks like he's going to try and engage in some combat. Oh my god, a lot of my guys starting to freeze up here. That's their last stand. Oh, we're starting to get a little bit wavering, and some archers have positioned themselves right in the back of my Equites Extraordinary. So let's see, point blank shots into the rear. This is another thing we noticed with this mod also, is that archers weren't very powerful. So let's see here, literally point blank range, and a lot of the arrows actually ended up going over my guys. A couple of them taking out my troops, but nowhere near the amount you would have expected in a traditional Attila or Total War Rome 2 battle. So definitely some battle mechanics still need to be fixed. Don't know why the arrows were stuck in midair. But yeah, still a couple things that need to be polished in this mod. Surely, cavalry charge, I would say, bow fire here having some weird effects. Pace of combat is perhaps a little too slow and sticky in these sieges. And also the morale does need to be fixed. It does have a lot of issues. I remember in chat, Indy and I were talking about this, and he ended up being super pissed by this point in the engagement because he's like, I'm literally point blank next to you, and he could not take out my heavy duty general. I mean, my guys are badasses. These tunics, yep, plus 80 armor on them. Well, it does take a couple men, but every volley, and what is this, a unit of 126 men, 126 arrows flying away, and I'm still at 168. Let's watch this. 2 kills. 3, 4. Okay, so like 3 or 4 kills out of 126. That is a terrible, terrible ratio for them. Even the repeated cavalry strikes in my rear not breaking my guys. So the morale features of this this mod do seem to be a bit gimmicky in the sense that my unit is completely surrounded here and it's not breaking, whereas other times we saw units just get absolutely shattered and rout. Speaking of another unit that won't break, my god. How? No. No way I still have 121 men. Where are they? That amazes me. I could have sworn I had like 20 guys left. Well, in any case, Indy has seized the capture point here with no units left to kind of pull out and disengage and recontest that. It looks like it's actually going to be going in his favor. Finally in this battle. Super long engagement. We are getting some men who are starting to turn and run. The archers finally taking their toll on my general, but still just barely 136 guys left, and he's going to expend all of his ammo in these last final moments. The countdown is still going. 14, 13, and I do turn around with my Triari. Finally, my men noticed that something was itching them in the back, and so I disengaged to try and attack them. But in doing so, my unit actually pretty much shatters at this point, and the settlement goes to the enemy. So I do hope you enjoy this battle. Very, very long battle, but it is definitely something I do enjoy. I love the attrition and the atmospherics of sieges in Attila, and this mod, the mod team passed me this, so it's not available just yet, but they did want me to remind you guys that it is very much alive, very much an enjoyable mod. Still some work to be done, but it has a lot of promise. So I will be uploading some more content for this, and hopefully we'll be able to see some of the campaign for it in not too long. Anyways, that's it. I'm going to end the replay. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the final remaining stats. You can see the number of troops here, 10,000 men fighting in that battle. The final kills here. Oh, and I do have to note the unit cards are absolutely glorious. So, yep, I got a lot of kills on my, I believe these are the Soshirome Etrusci forces. Hastati doing okay. Javelin's relatively worthless, but they were pretty cheap. The plebs here with 7 kills. Equites and Cavalry doing alright, but mostly, yep, Corps Soshirome Etrusci, I knew it. And then these Triari doing well. Hastati doing alright. And 106 kills on these guys. The enemy, on the other hand, Macromani doing pretty well. These Hari forces, where'd they go? Right here. Doing pretty good. Oh no, 20, 30, 15. Okay, so not as good, but they were light, very cheap troops. Batavian Swordsman doing pretty well. I think it was mostly up to the Germanic nobles to chew through my guys towards the end. His cavalry with 261. My god. Lots of damage done there. I think it was when they charged and crashed through my guys in the early stage of that fight when I was fighting outside and they just cleaned up my units. That's where they got most of the kills. Archers and skirmishers, on the other hand, in this mod do seem very underpowered, which hopefully is kind of a good thing because historically they weren't just... It wasn't like a bunch of troops running around with assault rifles mowing everything down. It was much more tempered, but still, I think they do deserve a little bit of a buff. Anyways, that's it for this episode. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. See you in the next one. Peace out.